Well, good evening, folks. Welcome to Sunday night. I'm a little tired. I've been flying a drone around the whole day. This is what it looks like, DJI Mini 4. And I've been doing some surf photography, so the whole day out in the sun. Now, let's get back to what we're here for, and that's currency charts and Bitcoin and natural gas and gold and stocks and all that sort of thing. So let's go through. Now, a few things are going to happen this week that we need to find out. One is what's going to happen with the dollar. We'll have a look at that briefly. And then there are a few trades that we're in, like, for example, short NASDAQ, long Bitcoin and gold. And we've got natural gas trades on, which are hedged, and a couple of other things as well. So let's go through all of these one by one. I'll try and do this in a fairly conversational way so that I don't feel rushed. And also because I'm going to translate this into Spanish for my new Spanish channel. The problem with Spanish is that it's a more verbose language, so you've got to fit more words into the same time frame, which makes it all sound a bit too rushed in Spanish. So I'll try and slow it down a bit. Now let's have a look at currencies, and let's start with the dollar index and see where we are. Now on Friday and Thursday, we bounced off this 200 period moving average and the 100 period moving average just below us. And we reached up towards this trend line that I had drawn in from some time back. My general idea is that dollar strength will persist at least for the next few months. However, this chart is actually bearish. We're below the 20 period moving average. There's the 20 up there in the green. And we're moving down, and we've had several moving down days. And I suppose we're really just not looking any stronger right now. If we zoom out a bit, you'll see that we're pretty much stuck in a very large range between somewhere around about 107 or 108 and about 100. That's the median level for the dollar index, about 100. And we've been between 100 and 108. And right now we're slap bang in the middle. And I often talk about this. When we're in the middle of a range or a channel, the probabilities or the odds of the trades become much lower. So we then have to focus on the 4-hour candles and the day candles to see what the price action is doing in the more immediate time frame. If I zoom this dollar index chart out and have a look at it on the weekly time frame, you can see exactly what I'm talking about. We've got this large broadening pattern, which is actually a reversal pattern in general. The top of the broadening pattern, if we should get there, is at around 109, and the bottom is way below 100 at about 97. And we're literally right in the center, dead center of this broadening pattern, and also dead center of this overall range, which we've been in since the beginning of the year. So the probabilities trading currencies right now are not that good, and direction is not that clear. Generally, I think, though, that the dollar has a better chance of being stronger than other currencies. I think the Federal Reserve is going to be slower to raise interest rates than other countries like Europe and Britain and Canada, for example. And as a result, we should see generalized dollar strength. In other words, we're looking to buy dollar into dips and sell euro and pound, Canadian dollar, Swiss franc, all of those sorts of things into rallies. Let me zoom out even further on this week chart, and you can see actually we're still pretty much in an uptrend. If I draw a rough sort of line on this weekly chart like that, it's sloping upwards. I can even draw another one here that's also sloping upwards, and all the lines are sloping upwards. So generally the dollar is still in an uptrend, despite what everyone says about dollar weakness and the failing US dollar against other currencies. I don't think that's the case. So I can't really give much direction on the dollar, and we're going to have to play this by ear and see how these days play out. Now, the best currency pair to look at is the euro against the US dollar, which makes up the largest part of the dollar index, and that's also moving up. This is a 4-hour chart. But if we go to the day chart, you can see the euro's generally in an uptrend. And if we go to the weekly chart, you can see the euro's pretty much holding in what looks like a very long-term bull flag. We could even look at a monthly chart. And yes, we've got a long-term downtrend, which I can draw roughly like that. I've been eyeing that line for a long time. And I could actually adjust this line to incorporate all the highs previous to this. So it's not a precise line, but I'd like to touch those last two highs. And if we did rally, you could see we could get right up to the top of this order block and this trend line at about 1.15. So it's not all downhill for the euro, and it's not all uphill for the dollar, even though that's what I think is most likely to happen. So I think we'll leave the major currencies at the moment, except for the dollar yen. Now, we've talked about this one many times, and we're short on this, and we're looking at this fractal pattern from the last time the Bank of Japan and the Ministry of Finance intervened. That was all the way back here in 2022. I've simply copied the path that followed that intervention and placed it where we are today. And actually, we followed this path pretty well. We didn't get the free fall Friday, which I was hoping for. That would have taken us down to, I don't know, below 150, 148, 149. But we're still within this pattern. We haven't broken out through the top, and I'm still hoping for this to move down. If it does move down, that means the dollar will be moving down, which is opposite to what I think is most likely to happen. But the chart patterns seem to indicate otherwise. So it's really pretty much up in the air right now, but I do favor this one moving down and following this path. Maybe not exactly, pretty roughly. As you can see, it's already deviated a little bit from the previous red path, but so far so good. So that's our position on currencies, just short on dollar yen, nothing else. Now let's go across to stocks. We're now short on NASDAQ and ready to hedge anytime soon. Let's have a look at this day chart on NASDAQ and see where we are. We've made a new all-time high by breaking up through that previous high. We are approaching this channel center line. If I zoom out, you can see where this channel comes from. We've broken out of the steeper upward channel, and that's possibly no longer relevant, apart from a touch from the underside if we retrace back to it. I'd have to drag this chart down to show you where that would be, and that would actually meet this channel top at around about 21,000 on the NASDAQ. Now, I'm not ruling out a possibility that we could reach 21,000 before we actually turn around and reverse. I'm very willing to hedge this trade. We've been long most of the time until now, and this is the first time that I'm actually fully short. People will say, well, why are you short? We've broken out through this previous all-time high and we're moving higher. But I do think that there's a chance, a possibility, that this is actually a bull trap. I'm very concerned that the economy is not as rosy as it seems to be, and that the Fed will be cutting interest rates soon. When they do cut interest rates, it'll probably be that they're forced to do so by some economic event which is unfavorable to the economy. And it'll probably be around about that time, and that could be as early as next month, that we see that this market begins to top. In fact, it may already be there now. I'm going to allow for a move up to this channel center line before hedging. That will be about 18,920. But I'll be observing price action very carefully around about this level to see what happens next. It could well be that this is the sort of final exhaustion rally in the NASDAQ before we see a significant move down. I do think, however, this is probably a little premature, but I'm willing to take that chance for now. If we zoom in and have a look at the price action on Thursday and Friday, we have a one up, one down. A little spike high, a little spike low, generally a reversal pattern. But in this case, because these spikes up and down are pretty small, it's not totally convincing. It's more of a slight probability that we could move lower rather than a strong possibility. So I'll be watching very closely as the market opens, willing to hedge as quickly as we need to. And then if we start moving down and start breaking through key supports, through the moving averages, through the swing low, through that swing low there, then I'll consider adding more to the short position. Generally, however, I think we may get a decent pullback now and then another rally later in the year before the elections and before the rates cut, or maybe directly after the rates cut. Once again, I must indicate then that this could take us all the way up to the top of the channel. Let's try and clean this chart up. And the natural target would be the underside of this channel that was broken, a retest of the underside, and a test of the big channel top at the same time. So keep that number in mind as an extreme case of a rally on the NASDAQ, 21,200 or thereabouts. We could get there. I don't know if it's going to happen right now, maybe in a couple of months' time, or maybe immediately, I don't know. Or maybe we'll never get there and we'll be forming a top around about here, the channel center line, or more or less where we are today. We're going with a short side for now. We'll see how we go. Now, NVIDIA, I'm still hedged, fully 100% hedged. I've locked in profit on that, and we'll adjust that as and when required. Now, let's have a look at this, and NVIDIA is also approaching this channel top. It's a very long-term channel. Let me switch this to the week chart, and I've put a big question mark there. There's the big channel top. Look how far back this goes. Years and years and years. In fact, all the way into 2014. This very, very long-term weekly channel. And at this stage, I think if we do get to the bottom of the channel, we'll look for a breakout down below there and a move into these supports. Switching back to the day chart, do we have a potential for a double top here? We have a similar sort of top to what we saw in the NASDAQ. A little bit of a move down on Friday. Not totally convincing. We may just bounce off this very short-term trend line, move up to the top of the channel, up to that area there. That could take NVIDIA to 1,080. It's actually 1,072 on this chart, but I like 80s and 20s. So could take us all the way up there. And I think that a break through the 1,000, the magic 1,000 level, up to 1,080, which would be a classic bull trap, is a very good idea or concept or possibility that could occur. So watch the 1,000 level. I wouldn't be going short there. A little bit above 1,000, maybe 1,080, maybe 1,120, something like that, somewhere near the top of this channel. That's what I've got planned for NVIDIA. I'll also be looking to sell S&P on clear signs of reversal that we don't have just yet. We've also broken out through the all-time high and only fractionally similar to the NASDAQ, and we could be in a similar situation. Notice that we've got this rising trend line here, and if we did retest the underside of that trend line, which often happens in all markets, that could take us all the way up to somewhere around here. We've actually got two trend lines, the top one and the bottom one in this rising wedge. So if we did get up there in the coming days and weeks, it could take us up to 5,616 before a reversal. Now, I think both of these indices, the NASDAQ and the S&P, will either have to reach up to those levels, 21,000 plus on NASDAQ and 5,600 plus on S&P. If that doesn't happen, and I'm not convinced it will or it won't, I don't know at this point, I really don't know, then we may have to move down from somewhere near where we are at the moment, perhaps at around about 5,380, maybe where we are right now at 5,300. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. The best thing to do with these indices right now is to be cognizant that there may be a top in place, that we may have to reach up much higher, and that we should be watching the daily and the 4-hour candles for reversal opportunities. And I've got various ideas on AMD, Apple, and Tesla. We're long on Tesla already from quite low down, so that's done well. We actually got long right at the bottom on Tesla. We took our profit right at the top here, and we just rebought back down at the 20-period moving average. So we'll see how that goes in the coming days. But so far, that's looking all right. Right, going across to Bitcoin and gold. Well, basically, we're short on gold now, and we're long on Bitcoin. So it's a little bit of a hedge, another sneaky hedge, I suppose. Bitcoin's just looking good. Please look at the last videos on gold and Bitcoin. I think I said we were short on gold. We were short. We're now hedged on the break above 2,400. The problem with gold is that we're reaching this previous all-time high that we reached in April last month. Gold does like double tops and triple tops, and I'm very cognizant of that fact approaching here. We may have to spike through there, move down, stop out some of the long hands, trigger some buy orders and all that sort of thing, and get this market moving up into a spike, only to reverse. That often happens on gold, so I'll be watching this really closely. Essentially, I'll be looking to take off the long side and profit from the long side, and then add shorts on a rally. Pretty similar to natural gas, actually. We'll talk about that shortly. Or buy into dips. I'm looking to buy into dips around 2,200, maybe slightly lower, maybe 2,180 for the next rally. And Bitcoin, I'm not going to talk about in too much detail here. I've covered this in several videos several times. We've now broken out of this bull flag, as you can see from this Coinbase Bitcoin chart. I'm using this one because it's trading over the weekends. My broker doesn't. Looking a little hesitant right now, just stumbling around above the channel line, but we are still above the channel line. We're into this order block. There's plenty of resistance around here. We need to push up strongly during this next week or two. My target for Bitcoin is $104,000. The only thing that will change my long view on Bitcoin at this point is 2 daily closes beneath 50,000. Of course, if we rally up towards 100,000, maybe 80, 90, something like that, and fail to get to 104,000, then I'll be looking to short at those levels as well. Right, I haven't been trading copper. If you have, it's been tricky. I'm not going to comment on copper in this video because we're running out of time. We talked about Bitcoin, the US 10-year yield, trying to pick up a little bit, but bouncing off that 100-period moving average. Rather the 200-period moving average, but only back to the 50-period moving average and the underneath of this channel. We haven't quite got there yet. We could just reach up there a wee bit up to the underside of the channel tomorrow before moving back down and resuming the downtrend. Of course, if we do that, then the dollar should fall and everything else should rally as well and continue to rally, like gold and Bitcoin and stocks and so on. So I think a lot of it's got to do with the dollar and the Fed and what's going to happen and some of the economic numbers that are coming out, particularly jobs and inflation and so on. And we've seen a mixed bag across the board there. So not much to be gleaned from that sort of information at this point. Metals in general, however, have caught a bit of a bid and I think are probably generally bullish for the next number of weeks or maybe 2 months or so. Right, natural gas. I think I might need to do a separate video on this. I did a video on Friday on natural gas, which I covered this in detail, but very similar to gold, what I want to do with natural gas is 2 things. So first of all, I'm fully hedged. I have a short position and I have a long position. My objective is to take the long position off at higher levels for profit and then add to the short side for a move back down to around about $2 or $2.20. Once we get to $2 or $2.20, I'll be looking to exit the short side and add to the long side. So pretty much right now we're stuck in a range. The range is between $2 and $3. I think we've moved out of the $1.50 to $2.50 range, and I think we're now into the $2 to $3 range. If we are in the $2 to $3 range now, and not the $1.50 to $2.50 range, then we're actually right in the center of that range. We're at $2.60, which means the probabilities aren't good for one direction or the other. That's why I've hedged. What I'll be looking to do, as I said, is take the long side off at the top and add to the short side back down to about $2 or $2.20. Or if we get to $2 or $2.20 first, I'll take off the short side and add to the long side. My target for the rest of this year on natural gas is somewhere around about $3 and possibly, I'm not too sure, but possibly $3.50 to $4. If you've been watching my videos for the last couple of years on natural gas, you'll know that my target for this year was always about $3.50 to $3.75, and we may just get there towards the end of the year. Now, if you're confused and you're hedged or you're not hedged or you're long or you're short and you don't know which way it's going, we've got the rollover approaching, we've got the ETFs which trade differently to the futures, and it's all a bit of a mess. Please take a moment to subscribe to this channel or follow me on Twitter or on X. And if you'd really like to, you can join this YouTube channel. There's a join button below this video and it starts at $1. So you can go ahead and do that for more frequent updates. Let's talk about oil. Oh, and by the way, if you're interested in joining my private group, there's a link below as well. We cover all of our trades all day long, and every single trade that I take, I post in detail in my private group. Okay, so this is WTI. We're short on WTI. We started going short there. We've shorted again now. My general idea on WTI is that we'll get down to about 70, the low 70s, probably $70, and then into the 60s. So I'm happy to continue to sell into any rallies. I only have a half-size position on this right now, so I've got plenty of space to add more. And this is a sort of path I think we could follow. And actually, so far, so good. We've moved down in 2 stages. We've had this move down, bit of a retracement, another move down, possibly a bear flag. I don't know. It sort of actually looks like more like a reversal pattern, perhaps a bit of a megaphone. But I don't think it'll be long lasting if we do rally. I think we'll find resistance up at about $82, maybe $84, and at the extreme, 85, 86, 88. I know a lot of people are calling for $100 a barrel for oil, Brent crude. And for WTI, I don't think that's the case. I don't believe that. Last one on this page is uranium, URA. We're still long from these 2 green arrows. We broke out of this consolidation, moved up to a new recent high, and we actually broke and closed above this previous high from February. That previous high was at $32.60, and we closed at $32.65. I'm aiming for the top of the channel up to here around about $34. And then in the longer term, this is the weekly chart, I'll be looking for a move much higher. There's plenty of opportunity for uranium to go much higher. In 2011, we were trading at $120, $130. We're now at $32. And we've got this beautiful U-shaped bottom that we're forming, nice smiley face. We always want to see that on charts. So it's all looking pretty good for uranium on URA. We're also long on UEC. Our entry price is right down there at about $6.50. We're now at $7.40. And I think that's everything, folks. I don't think there's anything else to cover. If you're long on the dollar rand like I am, we've moved down a wee bit. I've also drawn this out on the weekly chart, and you can see my buying zones. We've actually just entered the second buying zone at the 100-period moving average. Good place for this to bounce on the weekly chart. And I'll be looking to add another position later on tonight or early tomorrow morning. If we don't hold here and fail to hold this second bubble, then I'll be looking to buy even more at this third bubble down at the bottom of the channel line at around about 1770. So that's it, folks. I think I've covered everything, really. I'll just mention euro yen and pound yen. I don't have the pound yen on this page, but they should follow a similar path to the dollar yen. And that's, I hope, down. Okay, folks, have a fantastic trading week. I've tried to cover broadly everything that people have kind of been asking about, or things that are moving, markets that have changed this week. And I hope I've given you some good info. If you did enjoy it, I'd love your subscription to this channel, your thumbs up. And as I said, if you'd like to join us, there's a button below, or you can join my private group, link at the end.